I do want to bring in Doobie McDowell and Brian Flaherty, who, if you're just joining us on the Channel 3 streaming app, these are our esteemed analysts, Doobie from the Democratic side and Brian from the Republican side. If you've been listening to all of this, we want to know the big races you think we're going to be watching tonight, or even the big moments we've heard from some of our reporters like Stamford and New Britain, West Haven. What's your take, Brian?
I think you covered most of them in those reports. And it's very interesting because we're talking about absentee ballots and also talking, let's say, in Stamford. Supposedly, the Democratic Party has an edge in the absentee ballots that were signed out for and returned. And this may be one of the cases where in a close race, which people expect it will be, you have an independent, Bobby Valentine, running against a Democrat with the party organization behind and that knows how to turn out absentee ballots, knows what to do. And organization matters, and it's going to be very interesting to see whether organization matters more in that race than, let's say, independent, candidate or a selfie stick or whatever. So I think that'll be close. And then you mentioned a couple of the close, Danbury and East Hartford have departing mayors, Marsha Leclerc in East Hartford, Mark Boughton, a Republican in Danbury. And so what will happen in those cities that are losing mayors that they're used to voting for?
Another really interesting thing about Stamford is that if Bobby Valentine were to win, well, it shows the power of celebrity. His unaffiliated Republicans, outnumbered by Democrats, but he might still win. On the other hand, you talked about the Democratic organization, and Caroline Simmons, if she wins, she was already an up-and-comer and a bright star at the state capitol. Look for her to be a statewide candidate eventually or go to Congress. Mark my words, she is a real up-and-comer, and becoming a mayor of a major city would be a big boost for her.
I just want to hear both your comments on, the comment that's making news, where Bobby Valentine referred to her as a girl, a 35-year-old girl who could not possibly relate to the diverse culture of Stamford. In this day and age, does that hurt that he called her a girl?
Error. Yes, error Valentine. Yes, baseball.
Right. Yes. And it allowed Caroline Simmons to fundraise off that comment. It just gave her and her campaign a lot of attention, a lot of negative attention to his. It made him sound like a guy from another era, and that she was the future.
And one thing also, she fought and won a hard-fought primary. There is a sitting Democratic mayor who'll be leaving in Stamford, Mayor Martin. And I think if you look at Bobby Valentine's strength, there may also be an indication of the outsider coming into politics and how that impacts that race in Stamford, possibly also how the outsiders, the new candidates, not part of the political structures now, are going to be coming into some of these other cities and towns.
In a moment, we're going to be going to Guilford. And speaking of outsider or getting new people involved, these Board of Ed races have really brought people out, not only to vote, but people who have never been involved in politics before. Parents are running. We've got a slate of Republicans running in Guilford, upset about what they call critical race theory. I want to get both of your takes on that, because some are saying this is actually a bellwether of what's just happening nationally post-Trump.
I think it's trickling down totally from the national scene. I think critical race theory is not being taught in schools. I think Tucker Carlson and others are making this a big issue, and it's really a very symbolic thing. I could go on and on about what it's symbolic for, but not a healthy thing. I think it's terrific if people want to get on their school board and get involved, but this is really a national Republican talking point, and I think it's pitting people against each other in communities over an issue that isn't even real.
Parents are going to come to the Board of Education if they're concerned about what's happening in the schools, if they read things in the papers, hear things on TV. Parents are their children's first teachers. And what boards of education, I spent a year in a fill-in position this year in Watertown, and you saw people coming in sincere, wondering what's going on, whether it was the pandemic, the masks. Yes, the national rhetoric has also clouded and interfered there. And these are people who, tomorrow morning are going to get sworn in, and they have to make the schoolhouses run, and they have to make sure that they educate. So it's been somewhat divisive, but this is where you're heard, local politics.
Yeah, and people, sad to see that sometimes turnout is so low on days like this, because
Right.
these are the issues that really affect us. Speaking of Guilford, I just